Hello class, this is Mike Nolan and this is my multimedia discussion board for week 6. So this is my overview of the critical assignment. The agency that I selected is the Banning Police Department. The Banning Police Department is a police agency with approximately 30 sworn police officers. The Banning Police Department operates in the city of Banning, which is approximately 30 square miles and serves approximately 30,000 residents. The code of ethics that applies to that agency is the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. The Law Enforcement Code of Ethics was adopted by all agencies internationally, majority of all agencies internationally, by the International Association of Chiefs of Police in 1957. And that is the code of ethics that the Banning Police Department adheres to. Some of the compliance topics that are going to be covered in the critical assignment are the department pursuit policy, use of force policy, racial profiling policy, and domestic violence policy. So the training frequency of ethics, surprisingly, and looking through all compliance material on what's required to maintain training frequency, there is zero strictly ethics training that is conducted within the organization. Now, when you look at the other side of that with compliance training, the policies that we discussed in the previous slide as the pursuit policy, use of force, and racial profiling, and domestic violence, according to POST, the Police Officer Standards of Training, they have a mandated requirement for police officers to review the policies with the correlating years, so 1 year periodically, 5 years, and 2 years for domestic violence. With that, the Banning Police Department also generates their own policy with stricter guidelines as to the frequency that the compliance training will be conducted, and they're at liberty to do that so long as they don't push the compliance training out beyond the years that are established, or frequency that is established by the guidelines of POST. So in my paper, and in recognition of the absence of value-based ethics training within the Banning Police Department, which focuses on compliance-based training, I'm going to establish a need for ethics-based training. That need is going to be centered around lawsuits, corruption, and scandal. While it's important to ensure that members of the agency receive compliance training and pursuits, use of force, and racial profiling, a lot of the negative media attention that's garnered for a public agency is usually the result of an ethics violation, and those ethics violations can stem into lawsuits and corruptions and scandals. So it's important to establish the need as why ethics-based training is equally as important as compliance-based training within the organization. And in implementing that ethics-based training, it's going to be done in a triage and hybrid method. And when I say triage, I mean addressing the needs of the agency first. Where are we failing? Where are we getting ourselves, where we're exposing ourselves to this vicarious liability and potential for the lawsuits or negative publicity within our agency, and tackling those agencies first. And in addition, the hybrid portion of that is going to be using a compliance-based training to incorporate the ethics values-based training to say, we're going to be in compliance with our ethics-based training by setting a mandate within the organization to say, every 6 months we're going to review certain ethical guidelines that we hold our officers or members of our agencies accountable to. And that's how it's going to incorporate both compliance with the addition of the ethics-based training. And lastly, in looking at some of the theoretical frameworks that can be applied here, I applied the utilitarianism approach, which is the greatest good for the greatest number, and focuses on intentions. It focuses on results with intentions being irrelevant, and basically states in part that the actions are right if they benefit the majority. I believe that theory applies in both the ethics value-based training and the continuing with compliance-based training. In addition, I also felt that contractarianism applied. In contractarianism, we accept that morality is not primitive or natural within an organization. In addition, as stated by Thomas Hobbes, that with contractarianism, the key to saving the world is an actual contract. That contract being department policy procedures as it relates to both ethics training and compliance-based training. So that's a brief outline of my critical assignment, and thank you for taking the time to watch this.